From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to you. It is February 24th, and this is another edition of Weather Weeklies for what little time we have left, because I want to explain to you in the video that we have very little time left here with any wintry potential. And then when we do these videos, we do it just for the winter season and what's on the horizon. So these will be time limited. I think maybe another 2 weeks or so, maybe a week or two of these Weather Weekly videos. And after that, I think we're done. Okay, just to give you an idea. So I want to thank all of you that have watched these throughout the winter season. It has been very tough trying to figure out what the longer range pattern is here, and they changed a lot, and you know, it happens. It's been a rough winter. I'm ready to move on to spring for myself, but we will have a couple weeks here yet. We'll have to deal with some colder weather. Of course, we have very warm temperatures today ahead of the cold front, so that'll come this afternoon once this cold front is nearing, and then once it goes through, then we drop back down again to near average on Monday. Then we'll have a near to slightly below average period going right through the beginning of March, so the end of this month and the beginning of March. And then once we get between, it says a third or second and seventh here, but I think it's realistically the 3rd and 8th. We are slightly below to below average. We're just backing that up one day, and then we still slightly below average to the 10th. And after that point, we slip to flip to spring mode and slightly above average temperatures that will continue straight through the end of March, it looks like. Now, I do think this is not one of those things where it's okay, it's going to be warm for a couple days, and it goes right back down again. Unlike last year, this is not like that. I think this is a true flip, and we're done when we get between this week of the 11th and 17th. Somewhere in the middle there, probably 13th, 14th, we flip and don't look back. That's the way it's looking. It's been looking like that for the last couple of weeks. So if you looked at our long-range outlooks and we had this identified as the period that was going to flip, that hasn't changed, folks. Still on track. And I know you get those people that say, oh, well, we had all this snow last year, and it snowed all the way to the end of March and beginning of April. Yeah, it happened some years. It's just not this year. Not happening. And because it happened last year, you can't make an argument with me saying, I think it's going to snow to the end of March and have no supporting evidence. I'll give you supporting evidence. Okay? Show me something different that says we're going to get some snow going through the end of the month. Not there right now. So anyway, here is the rain system we're dealing with now. Looks like it was on the lower side of ranges. Thankfully, we don't need any more rain, but we had the lower end of the ranges for a change of rain. Not some big 1 to 2 inch event, which is great. We do have some systems at the end of the week. A couple clipper systems we'll deal with. They're not significant. I'll show you those in a video. Also, winter storm signals that are still presenting themselves. It says, again, 2nd through the 7th. We're going to make that the 3rd to the 8th. I wouldn't even be surprised up until about the 10th. You have an opportunity for something wintry. After that, we're done. Arrival spring, and we're done. Okay, and the reason for that is largely tied to tropical forcing, and this is what the infrared satellite looks like when I pulled this last night. But this is a look at the best convection, and not only in the Pacific, but also the Indian Ocean. You get this right now going into a phase 1. This is your phase 1 signal. You also have this area out here. This is also phase 1. Once this thing climbs a little bit further north of the equator, above Madagascar, this will also be phase 1. This will take over. Indian Ocean is going to take over your convection. So we're expecting this to go away. We're expecting the Indian Ocean convection to take over. These are heading into the warmer phases as that moves eastward toward India, or just east of the India area and toward the maritime continent, which is out here. So here's your tropical forcing significance. And again, right now we're kind of like each one of these dots here that are on here. The dots that are on here, they all represent a day between February 23rd and March 9th. Okay? So as we follow along here, we're moving into phase 1 here, and then moving along phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then it stops. So the point at which it stops is February 9th, but you see where it's going. Okay? It's an eastward propagating wave heading toward the maritime continent, which is all fine and dandy, but if you look at these phases and what they mean, phase 1 is cold, phase 2 is cold, phase 3, cold, phase 4, warm, 5, warm, 6, warm, 7, warm. So it's kind of heading in this direction now. This again, March 9th, and March 9th, your last dot is right here. So there's a couple day lag period there, so maybe like the 13th, 14th, or something like that. Once we get into these warm phases here, because this is still a cold phase or a transitional phase. This is cold, and this is cold. Or cold relative to average, for the most part, when you average things out. Now, if you're going to have something happen as far as storm, it's going to be right in here in phase 2. That's your storm time frame. And that's also the beginning of March. Maybe it's 2 into 3. I think that's when you have your opportunity for something that could be wintry yet, and we're still allowing for that to happen during that first week of March, generally between the 3rd or thereabout through the 8th, 9th, something like that. That's your window. Very small window of opportunity. After that, spring's coming because it's heading the warmer phases of tropical forcing. Also, there's some other things that are happening here with the Southern Oscillation Index. It tanked between the 16th and 21st of February. That puts us on track with the lag time to be right in here to coincide with this, give us a little bit of amplification in the jet, and give us some colder temperatures here in that time frame, but also gives the opportunity for a stormy pattern where we have something wintry, a last gasp effort by winter to produce something. Okay, and so here's the next 3 weeks in 5-day increments. This is skewed a little bit by today. We're going to have those temperatures spike a little bit today, so temperatures will be increasing this afternoon, but it has slightly above average for this entire period between the 23rd and 27th. This might be more like realistically near to slightly above average because today's going to skew it a little bit. After that point, we do have the colder air settling in here as we head into the early part of March. And then between the 5th and 9th, same thing. See where the coldest anomalies are, but it takes over the entire country. We get pretty much slightly below average temperatures. And then the following week, between the 10th and 14th, that retrogrades westward and just hangs out here in the western United States. And we have the opportunity to increase temperatures with a southeast ridge starting to come in. So high pressure gets these temperatures up, and that's where you get the warmer temperatures along the eastern seaboard. That will come. It might be closer to the 14th, but I do think once that happens and you flip, you stay warm at that point. We're going to be warm relative to average. I mean, you got to remember projected temperatures at this time, it's as far as normals, are getting up in the 50s. So if you're going to be warmer than average, you might have some days that are consistently upper 50s, 60s. So wouldn't that be nice for you guys that love spring? So it does look like it's going to get warm after this point, once you get close to the 14th and beyond, and it stays for a long period of time. I don't see this going away because of that tropical forcing propagation. So now today we're going to have very windy conditions. It's going to be later today through Monday. I think this comes in late afternoon and evening, continues into the overnight, and then especially Monday morning. I think Monday morning between, say, 6 and noon is going to be the windiest, most widespread windy time frame across the region. And it's largely because of the low-level jet that's going across, screaming across the area. But you also have a very tight pressure gradient here. You can see that here with these isobars very close in proximity to one another. That kind of pressure gradient going across the region will give you the windiest conditions. And that's why the National Weather Service has the high wind warnings out for a lot of places. Although I think they're a little overzealous as far as top-end wind gusts in some cases. This is looking into that really windy time frame tomorrow morning. This is 8 o'clock on Monday. But you can see some wind gusts here that consistently 45 to 50 miles per hour. No doubt, that's bad. And it's for a long duration of time. But I think it's really going to start in these areas first. These areas right here that I'm circling. These areas are the mountainous region that are going down to Lancaster. I think these are going to get you this evening. And then with time, that's going to move in over to the north and east as we get into Monday morning. And it's going to encompass more of the area. So everybody will have this 45 plus mile per hour wind gusts. I just don't see 60 out of this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody hits that in a higher elevation somewhere in a very isolated case. But I think for the most part, we're dealing with 35 to 45 gusts and a few occasional gusts that go over 45, like shown here at 8 o'clock in the morning. You'd see some that are 48, 47, 49. Higher elevation here shows 55. We'll see. This is just a long duration event, which makes it a power issue, and I've been dealing with that this morning with some of our clients that are very concerned with power outages and things of that nature. So that's why I'm doing this video early today. A lot of things going on. It's up very early on a Sunday. I usually don't get up this early. But a lot of things to do on the client side of things with the wind coming today. Just because you don't see it in the public, we make mention of it, doesn't mean it's not a big deal as far as our private clients are concerned. Again, we have clippers at the end of the week that we're going to deal with. Just a few. Well, the first one's going to be off to the north and might get northeast PA with a few snow showers, maybe just a few showers further south. You have another similar one coming in here Friday that's modeled, very weak, very same areas. Not a big deal. But once we get in a longer range, there are signals again between that March 3rd and March 8th, 9th time frame that does something like this. This is the GFS ensemble mean, very similar to the European ensemble, but it does signify that at least for the interior, we're going to have some opportunities for snow. South and east of 995, you have less of a chance this time of year to begin with. So if you're living down here, I wouldn't expect too much going forward. Not impossible. Don't just dismiss it. But your better chance is going to be in the interior going forward. But I think if this occurs, it's going to be in that time frame, 3rd to 8th or 9th of March. Okay, after that point, I don't really see too much going on. If it goes to the 10th, wow, whatever. But it's still, after that, we're turning into the milder temperatures, and we're not looking back. So there is your chances for snow, okay, through the next 2 weeks. Here's the snowfall today. This is put out by the National Weather Service in Mount Holly, put out yesterday with observed snowfall. Some of these numbers here that they have are a little misleading, so I'm going to explain that to you because we have the observed snowfall year to date in there's a couple different places in their region: Allentown, Atlantic City, Philadelphia, and Wilmington. And this is what we're at in each location year to date. Highest snowfall on any one day, not one storm. I know this is highest snowfall this season. They're referring to single day snowfall. Like, for example, Allentown had an 8.1 inch snowfall from the November 15th storm. It actually went November 15th to November 16th, covered over 2 days, and that's why it was 8.1. So this is a single day. 7.4 fell. You had 4.8 in Atlantic City, 3.6 in Philadelphia, 3.9 in Wilmington. Now, this is where you should be on average. This is where you are right here, and this is where you should be at this time of year. So we're below average in here in Allentown in terms of snowfall. Atlantic City is actually above average. Philadelphia is slightly below average. And Wilmington is kind of right at average as far as snowfall is concerned. So that's what we're looking at so far this year. And do we add to these? Well, time will tell, but if it does happen, again, it's between that March 3rd and 8th or 9th time frame that we're looking at for an opportunity for snow. This graphic I put out last week was just through the February 14th time frame. We did have some snow added to this with that system that came in after that point. Wasn't a lot, but we did have some snow added to this. But you see the concentration this winter has been away from I-95 and away from the coast and favoring the interior for these systems coming in. But even there, it's not like we're like drastically above average in terms of snowfall. Even the far northern areas, they had a decent amount in the northeast PA and north central PA regions. It's not. It's just slightly above average here in Harrisburg and those regions, but it's not like anything crazy above average. So will we add to this the rest of the way? We have a couple opportunities for some snow, but I just don't know if it's going to be an over-the-top thing. The pattern that we're going to be dealing with going forward, since I have this map up here, the pattern we're going to have going forward is going to be these slider types that go like this, not the big coastal systems. Because we don't have any blocking in Greenland. We don't have any blocking out in the Atlantic. It's wide open. So everything that comes in during that time frame of March 3rd and 9th, if you do get a snow system, it's going to be very fast moving, very progressive. So the upside to these are not very large, within nothing to slow it down. So even though you get a little more amplification in the jet, you're still going to be kind of fast moving systems. And yeah, you might get some snow out of it, but there's going to be limited upside. Okay, and it looks like the pattern is favoring the slider types versus the big coastal storms that sit in here and park itself off the Delmarva and just dump a tremendous amount of snow. It's just not the year for that. So here's our summary. The colder than average temperatures will settle in early March. We do have the storm signals, 1 or 2, that remain through early March. And this is going to be our last gasp effort of winter here before we turn the page on spring after that point. We're still steering away from the big coastal storm ideas going forward and don't expect a Godzilla storm. A lot of those systems that if you do have something coming in between the 3rd, 8th, 9th, like I explained, they're mostly like sliders or fast moving progressive systems. So I don't see you can get some decent snow out of that, but I don't think you're going to get something that would require the Godzilla, which would mean this year we would not have it at all. We did go in storm mode several times, but not Godzilla. And Godzilla is for anything over a foot of snow. I just don't see that happening the rest of the way, but we'll see. Spring arrives during the second week of March. I think, again, we're probably toward the end of the second week of March, so like maybe in the 10th to 14th time frame we flip. Once we flip, we don't look back after that point. Again, we will have Weather Weeklies again next week. I just don't know how many more of these we're going to have. We're probably going to be steering away from these once. As soon as these wintry threat ends and we reach this period, they will not be occurring anymore. So we're going to have at least one more next week, and I'll let you know at that point if we have a second one coming a week behind that, because it's already the 3rd. I believe it's the 3rd of March already next Sunday. So if that's the case, then we're not going to be, we might not have to deal with one the following week. If we already have a video, we're not going to have a video just to declare we're here for spring when these are basically wintry to winter potential videos. So we have nothing left. There won't be a need for it. So I'll let you know next week where we're at, but we'll have one more next week at the very least. Take care.